Chapter 2. The next night. Maya couldn't stop thinking about what she had seen. Not the notebooks. Not the business plans. Not even the endless pages of calculations that looked more like something a CEO would write than a guy everyone called a screw-up. It was the way Ethan kept getting back up. She had seen people quit over far less. A bad breakup, a lost job, a single public embarrassment. But Ethan had lost almost everything: his company, his father, his reputation, his leg, and somehow, there he was, dragging himself through another painful attempt to stand. The image stayed with her all night. The following evening, Maya drove past the old Harper property on her way home. At least, that was the excuse she gave herself. The truth was, she was curious. The huge Harper mansion was gone from their lives now. The bank had taken it months earlier. Ethan had moved into a small rental house on the edge of town, near the old railroad tracks. The kind of place most people never noticed. Paint peeling from the porch, rust on the mailbox, one lonely porch light flickering against the darkness. As Maya slowed her car, she noticed something strange. The garage light was on, so was the kitchen light, and through the front window, she could see Ethan, sitting alone at a folding table. The table was covered with papers. Again, he wasn't watching television. He wasn't drinking. He wasn't feeling sorry for himself. He was working. For some reason, that bothered her. Not because he was doing anything wrong, because it didn't fit the story everyone told: the lazy rich kid, the spoiled heir, the guy who never earned anything. That version of Ethan wasn't supposed to spend 10 hours studying financial reports in a tiny rental house. That version wasn't supposed to be working harder than people with stable jobs. Yet here he was. For nearly a week, Maya kept noticing the same thing. Every time she drove by after work, every time she stopped at the gas station nearby, every time she picked up groceries from the discount market, the lights were on, papers were out. Ethan was working. Then one Saturday morning, everything changed. Maya was leaving the local farmer's market when she spotted him. First, she barely recognized him. He looked thinner, older, somehow not physically, emotionally, like someone who had aged 10 years in 6 months. He stood awkwardly beside a folding table where local veterans were collecting donations. The prosthetic leg was visible beneath his jeans, and every few minutes he shifted his weight slightly, clearly uncomfortable. Most people walked right past him. Few stared. Some whispered. One teenage boy laughed before his mother pulled him away. Ethan pretended not to notice, but Maya did. People think humiliation comes from dramatic moments. Sometimes it comes from dozens of tiny moments stacked together. The stares, the whispers, the looks of pity, the way conversations suddenly change when you walk up. That stuff cuts deeper than most people realized. As Maya watched from across the street, an elderly man approached Ethan. The man wore a faded army jacket and leaned heavily on a cane. The two talked for several minutes, then the old man laughed. Not at Ethan, with him. A genuine laugh. The kind Ethan probably hadn't heard in a long time. Before leaving, the veteran handed him a folded piece of paper. Later, Maya would learn what was written on it. At the time, she had no idea that that piece of paper would eventually change everything. A few days later, Maya received an unexpected phone call. It was Ethan. The fact that he even had her number surprised her. "Hey," he said awkwardly. His voice sounded unsure, almost embarrassed. "I need a favor." Maya nearly dropped the phone. Nobody in town ever imagined Ethan Harper asking anyone for help, especially someone like her. What kind of favor? There was a long pause. Then he said something she never expected. "Can you teach me how regular people shop?" For a moment she thought he was joking. He wasn't. Ethan explained that growing up wealthy had left him clueless about certain things. He knew how corporate purchasing contracts worked. He understood investment structures. He could read a balance sheet faster than most accountants. But he had never learned how families stretched $100 through an entire week. His mother handled household expenses. Staff handled groceries. Assistants handled everything else. Now he was alone and completely lost. Maya laughed. Not because it was funny, because it was so honest. That Saturday they spent 3 hours walking through discount stores, dollar stores, used furniture shops, places Ethan had never entered before. First he looked uncomfortable, then fascinated. He asked questions about everything. Why people bought generic brands, how parents budgeted, school supplies, which neighborhoods were struggling most, what families worried about. Maya started realizing something. Ethan wasn't collecting information to save money. He was studying people, listening, observing, learning the same way he studied markets, the same way he studied businesses. For the first time, Maya understood why those notebooks existed. He had always been paying attention, not in the way everyone assumed. What surprised her most wasn't how much Ethan talked, it was how carefully he listened. Most wealthy people she had met spent conversations waiting for their turn to speak. Ethan asked questions, then actually paid attention to the answers. Somewhere between the discount grocery store and the used furniture warehouse, Maya caught herself laughing more than she had expected. For the first time in years, she wasn't talking to Ethan Harper, the town's favorite scandal. She was simply talking to Ethan. Over the next few months, a strange friendship formed between them. Neither would have predicted it. They came from completely different worlds, but somehow they understood each other. Maya shared stories about growing up in a trailer park outside town. Ethan shared stories nobody else had heard. Stories about constant pressure, expectations, being compared to Daniel every single day, being treated like the family's disappointment. Before he had even figured out who he wanted to become, the conversations became the kind neither of them expected. Honest, unfiltered. Sometimes they sat for hours without realizing how late it had become. Neither one said it aloud. But those evenings slowly became something both of them looked forward to. Weeks passed, then months. Ethan's recovery continued. Slowly, painfully. Some days he made progress. Some days he didn't. There were nights he threw his prosthetic leg across the room. Days when phantom pain left him shaking. Mornings when getting out of bed felt impossible. But every time he wanted to quit, he remembered something. The note from the veteran. The paper Maya had once seen folded inside his notebook. One rainy evening he finally showed it to her. The note contained only one sentence. Just 12 words. Your life didn't end when you fell. It starts when you rise. Simple, almost ordinary, yet Ethan carried it everywhere. Maya smiled when she read it, handing the note back.
I never knew you kept this.
It kept me going.
You know, she said, that sounds exactly like something you'd write. Ethan laughed. Maybe that's why I kept it. It wasn't much of a joke, but it was enough to make both of them smile. And lately those moments seemed to be happening more often. Months later, people in Riverton still believed Ethan Harper was finished. They believed his story was over, that he was another failed rich kid who had finally run out of luck. What nobody knew was that while Riverton kept talking about Ethan's past, he was quietly building a future that looked nothing like the life he had lost. Maya was one of the few people beginning to see it. One of the few people who still showed up. And hidden beneath Ethan's kitchen table sat a notebook containing an idea so bold, so unexpected, that it would soon force the entire town to look at him differently, including the people who hated him most. If this story touched your heart, we'd love to hear from you. Share your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like, subscribe to the channel,